Welcome to Lore After Dark. Tonight we'll be exploring the real lore of Skyrim, the stories that existed long before the Dragonborn ever woke in a cart, and long before the Civil War ever divided the land. This is not a guide, and it's not a recap of quests. These are the ancient truths of Tamriel, told softly, so you can rest. You don't need to stay awake, just listen, and let the world unfold. Before Skyrim had mountains, before it had snow, before it even had time, there was only the Dawn era, an age before linear time existed, where cause and effect had not yet separated from one another. In this era, the universe was unfinished, reality was fluid, and events could happen in contradiction, simultaneously true and untrue. Beings did not always have bodies, and concepts themselves could think and act. At the heart of this early existence were two opposing forces: Anu, the embodiment of stasis, order, and permanence, and Padme, the embodiment of change, chaos, and motion. Their conflict was not a war in any traditional sense. It was a cosmic disagreement, a tension between stillness and transformation. From that tension, reality itself began to form, not as a single decision, but as an ongoing compromise. As existence slowly stabilized, powerful spirits emerged from this conflict. These spirits would later be known as the Daedra, the gods of creation. Unlike later divine beings, the Daedra did not rule the world from above. They became the world. Every law of nature, every season, every mountain and ocean was shaped by their sacrifice. Each act of creation cost them part of their power, binding them permanently to the structure of reality. This is why the gods of Skyrim feel distant. They are not absent because they do not care. They are distant because they are exhausted. They are still holding the world together, even now. Their silence is not neglect, but endurance. Among these early gods was one whose story is never told the same way twice: Lorcan. To the elves, he was a deceiver, a trickster who doomed them to mortality. To the Nords, he was Shor, a heroic figure who gave them the gift of struggle and meaning. Lorcan was the one who convinced the Daedra to create the world, but he did not fully explain the cost. When the other gods realized what they had lost, they tore out his heart. That heart did not die. It fell to the world, still beating, still shaping fate. Even in Skyrim, long after the Dawn era, its influence can still be felt. The Nords believe Lorcan wanted mortality. To them, a life without struggle is a life without purpose. Pain gives meaning. Effort earns glory. This belief would shape Skyrim forever. Skyrim is a harsh land, cold, unforgiving, and dangerous. This is not accidental. The land reflects the Nord worldview. To suffer is to prove you exist. To endure is to be worthy. Comfort is weakness, and survival is sacred. The mountains are high because life is meant to be difficult. The winters are long because strength is forged through hardship. Take a moment here. You don't need to remember every name or every detail. Just imagine the snow falling quietly, pine trees bending under frost, the sound of wind through stone, a distant horn echoing across the mountains. In the next chapter, we'll explore the true history of the Nords, the rise of the dragon cult, and how Skyrim became a land forever shaped by dragons, gods, and rebellion. Long before Skyrim was divided by civil war, before holds and jarls, before cities and roads, the land belonged to the early Nords. These people did not originally come from Skyrim. Their ancestors crossed the Sea of Ghosts from the frozen continent of Atmora, a homeland now lost to time and ice. Atmora was once fertile, but it grew colder with each generation, forcing its people southward in search of survival. When the Nords arrived in Skyrim, they found a land already inhabited by the Snow Elves, known as the Falmer. In the earliest days, relations were uneasy, but not immediately hostile. The Snow Elves were advanced, skilled in magic and architecture, while the Nords valued strength, honor, and survival above all else. Peace did not last. A massacre at Sarthal, carried out by the Snow Elves out of fear of Nord expansion, ignited a war that would reshape the province forever. The Nords responded with brutal efficiency. Backed by sheer numbers and relentless resolve, they drove the Snow Elves underground. Over generations, the Falmer would be twisted into the blind, feral creatures encountered in Skyrim's depths. This tragedy was not the result of a single evil act, but of fear, retaliation, and survival colliding without mercy. In Skyrim, history is rarely clean. As Nord society grew, so did their reverence for dragons. Unlike later generations, the early Nords didn't see dragons as enemies. They saw them as gods. Dragons were powerful, immortal, and terrifying. But they were also teachers and rulers. This belief gave rise to the dragon cult, the dominant religious and political force in ancient Skyrim. Dragon priests ruled vast territories in the name of their dragon masters. They wore enchanted masks and wielded magic gifted by the dragons themselves. To the people, they were intermediaries between mortals and divine power. But power always demands a price. The dragon cult was cruel, demanding obedience and sacrifice. Over time, resentment grew among the Nords, even as fear kept them silent. Above all, dragons stood Alduin, the World Eater. To the ancient Nords, Alduin was not merely a destroyer. He was a god of the end, a necessary force meant to reset the world when it grew stagnant. Alduin's role was cosmic, but his arrogance grew. Instead of waiting for the proper time to fulfill his purpose, he ruled directly, demanding worship and obedience. This defiance of the natural order marked the beginning of the end for the dragon cult. Mortal rebellion began quietly, whispered in halls and longhouses. Eventually, it erupted into open war. The Nords, guided by heroes and the first Dragonborn, learned the Thuum, the dragon tongue, and turned it against their former gods. The war against the dragons reshaped Skyrim's landscape and culture. Dragon priests were buried alive within elaborate tombs, sealed away with their masks and power intact. Dragons were hunted, driven into hiding, or cast through time itself. Alduin was not destroyed, but banished, sent forward to a future where his return would mark another turning of the wheel. In the aftermath, the Nords rejected the dragon cult entirely. They turned instead to ancestor worship and reverence for Shor and the Nordic pantheon. The scars of that era remain everywhere in Skyrim. Every burial mound, every word wall, every ancient ruin is a reminder of a time when gods walked openly among mortals, and mortals dared to challenge them. As centuries passed, Skyrim became a land defined by memory. The Nords value the past not because it was better, but because it was earned through blood and hardship. Their songs are laments, their heroes are warriors who suffered. Their gods are not distant ideals, but reflections of struggle itself. Pause here. Let the world slow. Imagine torchlight flickering across stone walls, snow settling quietly over ancient ruins. The distant cry of a dragon, not in fear, but in memory. In the next part, we will explore the gods of Skyrim, the Daedra, the true nature of dragons, and the darker secrets hidden beneath the province's surface. As the Age of Dragons faded into myth, Skyrim did not become quieter. The gods remained, though they were no longer visible in the sky or seated upon thrones. Instead, they became ideas, forces, and stories carried through generations. To understand Skyrim, one must understand its gods, and more importantly, how the Nords see them. Unlike other cultures in Tamriel, the Nords do not worship distant perfection. They worship endurance. Their gods are reflections of survival, war, loss, and honor. Shor, the Nordic form of Lorcan, is not a creator who promises paradise. He is a god who died so the world could exist. His absence is proof of sacrifice, and his memory is stronger than presence ever could be. Kine, goddess of the storm and widow of Shor, is revered not as a gentle figure, but as the breath of the world itself. Wind, rain, and thunder are her voice. The Greybeards believe it was Cain who gifted mortals the Thuum, allowing human voices to shape reality. This was not meant to grant dominance, but understanding. To speak with power requires restraint, patience, and silence. Then there is Talos, the most controversial god in Skyrim's history. Once a man, he rose through conquest, unity, and will, eventually ascending to godhood. To the Empire, Talos represents unity and strength. To the Thalmor, he represents heresy. To the Nords, he is proof that mortality is not weakness, but potential. The banning of Talos worship is not merely political. It strikes at the very heart of Nord identity. Beyond the gods of creation lie the Daedra. Unlike the Aedra, the Daedra did not sacrifice themselves to form the world. They exist outside it, unchanged and eternal. This does not make them evil, but it does make them dangerous. Daedric princes embody concepts taken to their extremes: ambition, madness, domination, knowledge, desire. They are honest in a way gods are not. They do not pretend to care. They offer bargains, not blessings. In Skyrim, the influence of the Daedra is subtle but constant. Shrines hidden in forests, whispered voices in abandoned halls, artifacts that grant power at the cost of peace. The Daedra do not seek worship in the traditional sense. They seek interaction. Every mortal who accepts a Daedric gift becomes part of their endless story. Dragons, meanwhile, are neither gods nor Daedra. They are fragments of time itself. Born of Akatosh, the dragon god of time, they experience existence differently. To a dragon, past, present, and future are not separate. This is why they do not truly die. When slain, their souls linger, bound to the flow of time, waiting to be reclaimed. This is why the Dragonborn is so significant. Only one born with the soul of a dragon can permanently destroy a dragon by absorbing its essence. The Dragonborn is not chosen by prophecy alone, but by nature, a mortal shaped to exist between worlds, carrying both limitation and eternity within a single form. Skyrim itself seems aware of this balance. The land is ancient, layered with forgotten ages stacked atop one another. Dwemer ruins lie beneath Nordic tombs. Falmer lurk beneath both. Every step through Skyrim is a step through history, even when the player is unaware of it. There are no clean endings in Skyrim's lore. Alduin's return is delayed, not erased. The gods remain distant. The Daedra continue to whisper. Empires rise and fracture. What matters is not resolution, but continuation. The world endures because it must, not because it is kind. And perhaps that is the deepest truth Skyrim offers. Existence is not gentle. It is meaningful because it is difficult. Mortality is not a curse to be undone, but a condition that gives weight to every action. To live briefly is to live intensely. To struggle is to matter. Let the world quiet now. Imagine embers glowing low in a hearth, snow falling beyond stone walls, ancient words carved into rock, waiting patiently to be remembered. Skyrim does not demand your attention. It waits. As time passed, much of Skyrim's deepest history faded from common knowledge. What remained were fragments, half-truths, and stories told so often that their original meaning softened. Yet beneath the surface of Skyrim, the past never truly disappeared. It simply waited. One of the most misunderstood civilizations tied to Skyrim is the Dwemer, often called the Dwarves, despite not being dwarves at all. The Dwemer were a race of elves who rejected the gods entirely. They believed divinity was a flaw, not a goal. Where others worshipped creation, the Dwemer studied it. They did not pray. They calculated. The Dwemer vanished in an instant, across all of Tamriel, at the exact same moment. There were no bodies, no signs of struggle. One moment they were present, The next, they were gone. The most accepted explanation is not that they died, but that they succeeded. Their final experiment, centered on the heart of Lorcan, may have allowed them to transcend existence itself, escaping mortality by removing themselves from reality. If this is true, then the Dwemer did not fail. They left the world behind entirely. Skyrim still rests on top of their ruins, unaware that an entire civilization may exist beyond perception, watching from somewhere unreachable. The Falmer are another reminder that Skyrim's tragedies do not end cleanly. After being driven underground, they sought refuge with the Dwemer, who offered them protection. The price was sight. Whether the blindness was intentional cruelty or a tragic side effect of Dwemer alchemy is unclear. Over generations, the Falmer forgot who they were, their cities crumbled, their language dissolved. What remained were instincts, echoes of a people who once worshipped the light of the sun. In Skyrim, even monsters are survivors. Then there are the standing stones. To most travelers, they are simple blessings. Ancient magic tied to luck, strength, or skill. But their placement is not random. They predate modern Nord society, possibly originating in the Dawn or Merethic eras. Each stone represents a cosmic alignment, a relationship between mortal fate and greater forces. They are reminders that destiny in Skyrim is not linear, but cyclical. This idea of cycles appears everywhere. Alduin does not destroy the world out of malice, but obligation. Empires rise only to fracture, heroes emerge, then fade into myth. Even the Dragonborn is not a permanent savior, but a momentary correction in time's flow. Skyrim also contains places that seem to exist outside normal reality. Blackreach, hidden beneath the province, is larger than many surface cities combined. It suggests the Dwemer understood the world in layers, not borders. Sovngarde, the Nord afterlife, exists not as a distant heaven, but as an echo of belief made real. The strength of Nord faith shaped it into a tangible realm. There are even moments where Skyrim acknowledges the player without breaking immersion. Prophecies speak vaguely. Characters sense significance without understanding why. This is not coincidence. In Elder Scrolls lore, belief shapes reality. The act of being remembered gives power. This is why heroes become gods, and gods fade when forgotten. Rest here for a moment. Imagine ancient mechanisms humming beneath stone, mushrooms glowing softly in the dark, a civilization sleeping, not dead, just waiting beyond reach. In the next part, we will explore Skyrim's darkest corners, forbidden knowledge, necromancy, vampires, the true nature of souls, and why death in Skyrim is never as final as it seems. In Skyrim, death is not an ending, it is a transition, a relocation of purpose rather than an erasure of existence. Souls do not vanish when the body fails. They linger, they travel, they are claimed, and sometimes they are trapped. This understanding shapes nearly every dark practice in the province, whether the living acknowledge it or not. To the Nords, the soul is meant to travel to Sovngarde, the Hall of Valor, where heroes feast and fight until the world's end. But Sovngarde is not guaranteed. Only those who live and die according to Nord ideals are welcomed. Cowards, oath-breakers, and those claimed by other forces are turned away. Even in death, honor matters. Beyond Sovngarde lies the Soul Cairn, a bleak realm ruled by the ideal masters. This place is not an afterlife chosen by belief, but one enforced by bargains. Those who trade their souls for power through black soul gems are pulled into this void, where they exist as shades, slowly dissolving into nothing. The ideal masters do not torture their captives, they simply drain them, patiently, eternally. Necromancy in Skyrim is feared not because it creates monsters, but because it interrupts destiny. Raising the dead denies the soul its rightful journey. Some necromancers claim they merely animate empty shells, but evidence suggests otherwise. Whispers, resistance, and lingering awareness hint that something of the person remains trapped, unable to move on. This is why Skyrim's dead do not rest easily. Draga rise not because they are cursed, but because they are bound. Many were sworn to eternal service during the dragon cult era, charged with guarding tombs and word walls. Their devotion outlived their flesh. Even now, centuries later, they obey commands long forgotten by the living. Vampires represent another form of interrupted death. Created through the influence of Molag Bal, the Daedric prince of domination, vampirism grants immortality at the cost of autonomy. Vampires do not age, but they also do not grow. They are frozen, locked into a cycle of hunger and secrecy. Their power is borrowed, not earned, and it always comes with chains. The Volkihar clan understood this truth better than most. Their isolation was not just fear of mortals, but fear of stagnation. Eternal life strips urgency from existence. Without an ending, meaning erodes. This is why vampires often become cruel, not out of malice, but boredom. Even werewolves, blessed by Hircine, exist in a similar liminal state. Their souls are claimed by the hunting grounds, where the chase never ends. To some, this is paradise. To others, it is a prison of endless pursuit. Like all Daedric bargains, the reward is exactly what is promised, and nothing more. Skyrim is filled with ghosts because memory is powerful. Strong emotions bind souls to places. Regret, love, vengeance. These feelings echo long after death, shaping spectral forms that repeat the same actions endlessly. They are not malicious, they are unfinished. This is why so many ruins in Skyrim feel heavy, even when silent. They are saturated with unresolved lives. The land remembers what the people forget. Take a breath here. Imagine a candle flickering low in a crypt. Dust settling, stone cooling, a soul finally letting go, drifting quietly into the dark. In the next part, we will step beyond death entirely. We will explore the Elder Scrolls themselves, broken timelines, dragon breaks, and the unsettling truth that reality in Skyrim is not as stable as it appears. At the deepest level of Skyrim's lore lies a truth that few in the world fully understand. Reality is not fixed. It bends, fractures, overlaps, and occasionally contradicts itself. This instability is not a mistake. It is a feature of existence itself. The Elder Scrolls are not books in the traditional sense. They do not record history. They contain it. Past, present, and future exist within them simultaneously, shifting depending on who reads them and when. To look upon an Elder Scroll is to witness reality from outside linear time. This is why mortals who read them often go blind. The human mind is not built to perceive infinity without consequence. Prophecy in Skyrim is not destiny written in stone. It is possibility. Elder Scrolls do not predict what will happen. They describe what could happen, given enough belief, momentum, and alignment. This is why prophecies can be fulfilled in unexpected ways or fail entirely. The future is flexible, but never random. This flexibility leads to events known as dragon breaks. A dragon break occurs when time shatters, allowing multiple contradictory events to happen simultaneously. During these moments, cause and effect lose meaning. Different outcomes all occur, and when time resumes, reality accepts every version as true. History remembers all of them, even when they cannot logically coexist. To the people of Tamriel, dragon breaks are invisible. They feel no disruption, but the world changes around them. Borders shift. Empires claim victories they never fought for. Gods gain power they were never granted. Skyrim itself exists partially shaped by these fractures, layered with outcomes that never truly resolved. Dragons are uniquely tied to this phenomenon because they are creatures of time. Their language does not merely describe reality, it enforces it. When a dragon speaks, the world listens. The Thuum is dangerous, not because it is loud, but because it is authoritative. It tells existence what it must be. The Dragonborn exists at the center of this instability. A mortal capable of absorbing dragon souls is not bound by the same rules as others. Their presence stabilizes time even as it bends around them. This is why major events seem to follow the Dragonborn. Not because they are chosen by fate, but because fate requires them to exist coherently. Skyrim itself feels unfinished at times because it is. The province sits at the edge of several competing realities. Nordic belief, imperial order, elven doctrine, Daedric interference. All of these narratives overlap, shaping the land in subtle ways. A shrine here, a ruin there, a prophecy half fulfilled and forgotten. Even the concept of victory is uncertain. Alduin's defeat does not end the cycle, it delays it. The world is not saved permanently, it is corrected temporarily. This is not failure, it is balance. The Elder Scrolls universe does not seek perfection, it seeks continuation. This understanding changes how one sees Skyrim. The endless side quests, the unresolved conflicts, the characters who sense importance but never explain it. These are not design flaws, they reflect a world that cannot be fully resolved because resolution would mean stagnation. Rest here for a moment. Imagine snow falling endlessly, erasing tracks as quickly as they form. A world in motion, never fully settling. Time breathing in and out, like a sleeping giant beneath the mountains. One final part remains. In the next chapter, we will quietly step back and reflect on what Skyrim is truly about. Memory, struggle. Why this world endures in the minds of its people long after the screen goes dark. Skyrim endures not because it is victorious, but because it is remembered. Long after wars fade and heroes vanish, the world continues through stories passed quietly from one generation to the next. This is the truest power in Skyrim. Not magic, not dragons, not gods, but memory. Every culture in Skyrim is shaped by what it chooses to remember and what it chooses to forget. The Nords remember struggle, the Empire remembers order, the Elves remember loss. Each belief leaves an imprint on the land, carving meaning into stone, snow, and ruin. Skyrim is not a single story, but many layered atop one another, all equally true from different perspectives. This is why the province feels alive even in stillness. A ruined fort is never empty. A cave is never just a cave. Every place carries echoes of decisions made long ago. Skyrim does not rush forward. It looks backward, constantly measuring the present against the weight of the past. The player's journey mirrors this philosophy. You arrive without history, nameless and unknown. As you move through the world, meaning accumulates slowly, not through grand victories alone, but through small acts. A traveler helped on the road, a forgotten tomb explored, a story heard and carried onward. These moments matter because they are remembered, even if only briefly. Skyrim never asks you to save the world forever. It asks you to exist within it, to walk its paths, to listen, to leave quiet footprints in the snow. When you stop playing, the world does not end. It waits, patient and unchanged, yet shaped by the time you spent there. This is why Skyrim remains comforting to return to. It does not demand urgency. It allows wandering. It allows silence. In a world defined by struggle, rest becomes meaningful. to pause by a fire, to watch snowfall, to hear the wind move through trees older than memory. Even now, as this story settles, Skyrim continues somewhere. Dragons sleep beneath mountains, gods watch from afar. Time turns gently, fractured but intact. The world does not need you to watch it. It simply exists. And that is enough. Let the cold air fade, let the fire dim. Let the mountains stand quietly in the distance. There is nothing left to do, nowhere left to go. You can rest now.